record to the cloud. All right. So you're gonna have a consultation session, which is called support session by Loki. So it will be held from 2 to 4 p.m. Okay. Again, if you have any question regarding the subject, regarding the labs, of course, some you are facing some other kind of problems in terms of learning, teaching, or whatever, just please attend this session, support session, and of course, raise your question. Okay. So just I wanted to share these links with you, just in case for the next time you are attending the lab. All right. So shall we start with the lab this week? Are you ready, guys? Okay, great. So, welcome to week two for this subject information system. And last week we talked about the information system in general. We talked about the definitions of information system. We talked about the components of the information system and so on. So today we go deeply actually in details about, and we will talk about the system development life cycle. And of course, when we say when we want to develop or we want to talk about any information system, there's kind of phases or there's kind of what we call the life cycle we need to go through in order to develop an information system. So this is will be the main topic, of this week. So system development life cycle. If we want to put it as a definition, of course, we're gonna say the system development life cycle is a process for information system envision. Of course, start with envision, start second by development and maintenance as well. And it consists of a number of phases with detailed instructions outlining reporting requirements, specific tasks that must occur in each phase, and individual responsibilities. So the main point of having or developing an information system, of course, and following these phases, which is the life cycle of system development, the main aim, of course, is what is to develop the system with the desired capabilities. So when we say desired capability, what does that mean? It means just one thing. It's the aim that or the goal that this information system actually is designed for. What is the main aim you are developing for? Is it, for example, as a website, or is it, for example, an information system that will be used by students, or and so on? So, of course, any information system should comes with a goal or an aim that should be developed for, and at the same time within a budget. Okay, so when we say a budget, what does that mean? A budget. A budget means actually the information system, of course, it comes through a phases from the beginning when you start designing your information system till the end when the information system is ready to be actually used by the client or whoever. Okay, so the budget means here how much cost, how much money you will spend on developing this information system. Of course, you need to have a budget. Okay, and that will cover all processes, all the phases from the beginning till the end. At the same time, when you have a budget, of course, you need to stick your time, of course, to something called a timetable or schedule. Of course, for example, you're gonna say, I will design this information system, of course, within a month or within 5 months or within a year. Okay, so the key point here depends on the size of the size of the information system itself. How big is it? Is it huge? It will take time. Is it a kind of simple one? Of course, it will take maybe a few months. So the main point is here, of course, it depends on the size of the information system itself. All right. So when we say the life cycle of an information system, of course, that means there's a phases, all right? So the big question is here, what are the actual phases of for developing an information system? So we have five main phases, starting by planning, system analysis, system design, system implementation, and the last one, of course, system testing, installation, and maintenance. As the purpose of this subject, of course, we will start talking about each phase from this week till the end of week 12. Of course, that will cover the last phase, which is testing, installation, and maintenance. So within 12 weeks, we will talk actually in about each phase of system development life cycle. Now, when we say system planning, what does that mean, system planning? System planning is actually it's quite clear from the name. That means, of course, when you came up with a plan, when you came, of course, with an idea about the information system. So the first thing, of course, you're gonna have something called the system request. We're gonna talk about this one later. So the purpose of this phase, of course, is to perform a preliminary investigation, all right, to answer the questions. The question are, can the system be developed? What is the cost for the system? How long will the development last? Should the system be developed? All right. So now you may ask a question. Do we just still have these questions, or of course, or there is more questions? Of course, there is more questions that you need to answer or to find the answers within this phase, of course. But we can't say these are the kind of five or four more important questions. Can the system be developed? The cost, how long does it like, for example, development? How long will the development last? Or should the system be developed? All right. The output of this phase, of course, when you are done with this phase, something we're gonna have something called the end product, actually, which we call the feasibility analysis report. All right. Now, I have a question to you. Now, when you just have a look at these four questions, it's clear from the question, can the system be developed? The cost, of course, the cost means we are talking about the budget, right? When we say how long will the development last, we are talking about the time, okay? But the question is, what is the difference between can the first one, can the system be developed, or the last one, should the system be developed? All right. So when you read these two questions, um, do you think there's kind of differences between these two questions, or they are the same? Can the system be developed, or should the system be developed? What do you think? Do you think that they are the same questions? They are different, absolutely. So what is the difference between them? If it's suitable to approach the situation, all right. Which one? The first one? The last question. All right. Absolutely correct. Of course. Okay, great. Good fault. So when we say can the system be developed, all right, it's a question, it's a question just to make sure, based on the existing tools, based on, for example, existing softwares, based on what we have currently, can we develop the system or the product or the information system? Can we develop it or not? All right. And then question four, should the system be developed? It's more about why, the reason, all right? Do we really need actually this information system? Do we really need actually to develop this information system? All right. So it's why. And is it really necessary to have this in your information system? And or okay, so kind of exactly, yeah, it's kind of in order to keep the question as well. Yep, the whole course, yeah. All right. So when we say should the system be developed, do we really need, of course, this question or not? So, of course, these two questions are not the same. All right, great. So system analysis, the first step is requirements modeling. The system technically documents all requirements. Of course, when you are starting a new project or you are starting developing a new information system, of course, the most important thing is to do analysis. And we will talk about this one just in details. What do you mean by analysis? What kind of analysis, we need to do it in order to, collect information or collect the data about the new information system. So lastly, of course, at the end of this phase, we're gonna have something called the system requirements specification. System design, this is another quite important phase. When we say system design, of course, so now you are done with the system planning, you are done with your analysis, system analysis, and now the time is to starting actually designing your information system. You are now starting designing your product, the final product. So again, the main key here depends on how big is it, how big the information system is. Is it too huge? Is it too big, for example? In such case, of course, we need to divide the whole system into smaller modules here or processes. Okay. Now, identify at the same time, we need to identify the inputs, we need to identify the outputs and the processes, of course, of each module in your information system. So that, of course, including all the source code, all the coding, of course, having a database, for example, of course, everything is based on each model here. At the end of this phase, of course, we're going to have something called system design specification. All right. System implementation. System implementation, now the system is constructed. All right. So all, in terms of the database, in terms, of course, it's been built, in terms of, all the processes, what you need inside each module, for example, in your information system. Of course, the interface, the user interface are constructed here in this phase. So, the evaluation as well. So at the end, of course, we're going to have something called the source code that represents the whole information system. Lastly, when we say system testing and installation maintenance, that should be, of course, the last phase in terms of developing an information system. So that means here, when you reach this phase, means you are done with your system planning, design, analysis, and implementation as well. Now it's time to, of course, to test your information system. And of course, the testing means actually each module here is tested individually, all right, based on what? Based on the input, based on the processes inside each module, based on the output as well. And then, of course, we need to combine all modules together to have one single information system. Once we're done with that, it's time to installation, all right? That means, of course, after testing, the system is installed on the client's platform, okay? Lastly, maintenance. Maintenance here, of course, the work to maintain the normal operation of the system. So when you install actually the information system on a client's platform, after a while, after running the operation system, or sorry, the information system, of course, it's required to do maintenance. It's required to do upgrades for some parts of the information system. So all of these things actually will be under maintenance parts. All right. So now till this point, of course, the system development life cycle actual ends with the system requirements. All right. Now, any question regarding that, guys? Do you hear me? Any questions so far?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what we did now actually, we just talked briefly about each phase of system development life cycle, all right? So what we're gonna do now, of course, we're gonna start here as of this week. We talk deeply, of course, about the system planning, all right? All right. System planning. So as we said, there are 5 phases of any. Is there someone else? Guys, please, can you just mute your mic? Please, can you just mute your mic because there's some noise here coming. Thank you. All right. All right. So, as we said, there is kind of five phases in order to for system development life cycle. And what we just did actually, we just review and brief each phase of the system development life cycle. Now, from this moment, of course, we're gonna talk deeply today about the system planning. Next week, for example, we talk about the system requirement, and then followed by system analysis, system design till the last week, week 12. Of course, we will end by system testing, installing, and maintenance. All right. When we say system planning, the first question comes to our mind is to develop or not to develop. Okay, is the center question in the system planning phase. A system development typically starts with a system request, all right, followed by a preliminary investigation, which includes a feasibility study. All right. Now, the term business case refers to the reasons, justifications for a system request or proposal. Guys, please just mute your mic, please, if you don't mind. All right. Now, which means here you should have kind of comprehensive yet or comprehensive study yet or easy to understand. Should describe the project clearly, provide the justification to proceed, estimate the project financial impact. So what does that mean? All right, let's have an example about that. All right, so imagine on no imagination. So you are now students at Latrobe University, right? And I believe, let's say you have been using the LMS for a year, right? Now, from the using LMS for a year, and you have noticed some weaknesses, you have noticed some actually parts, it's not actually efficient to deal with the LMS. So here, your job, for example, as a system development or as system development, of course, you came up with what? You came up with for example, a new actually system online to the Latrobe University. So here, actually, you will put your request to Latrobe University. Hey, Latrobe University, I have been using LMS for a year, for example, and I have noticed some weaknesses. So I have a new idea or a new information system. All right. Now, the main point here, you need to give your reasons or your justifications why you are coming up with a new LMS, for example, why you need to actually, for example, why you need to, provide new elements to the Latrobe University based on what? Based on what reason do you have? So, of course, your task, all right, as a system development, you need to have a comprehensive study, all right? So you're gonna say, I have been using LMS for a year, and what I have noticed, there are some points that needs to be replaced or some points that needs to be enhanced, for example. For this reason, I came up with a new idea that will replace the whole system, that makes, for example, the dealing with the LMS more friendly. That will make actually the new LMS comes with with exactly a new interface, compared to the last one. So you should have your reason, your justifications for developing a new information system. All right. Not just that, of course, you need, of course, describe the project clearly from A to Z. All right. Provide justification to proceed. Estimate the project financial impact. So based on your study, based on your comprehensive study, how much budget do you require to actually start working on this project till the end? How much cost as money, as a budget for it? So all of these details, of course, you need to provide it as what we call as a system request when you put your request to to Latvia University. All right. So this is, of course, what we call the first step, which is system planning or business case. Strategic, of course, planning is the process of identifying long-term organizational goals, strategic and resources. Based on what? Based on something called SOIOT, which is the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats. for the new project, for example. And of course, you are when you are putting your request for a new information system, of course, you will talk about the trends of this new one. For example, here they mention, for example, they are using excellent web design stuff, low system analysts, recently upgraded network. They are using the more recent network. The weakness, for example, still using several legacy systems. Documentation needs updating. These are kind of the weaknesses. Opportunities well positioned for expansion can be first with a new software. These are the opportunities, the threats, aggressive and new web competition, impact of new FCC rules. Okay, so all of these details, of course, you need to mention it in your analysis. Of course, at the first step when you put your system request. All right, information system projects. Now you may have a question. What kind of reasons, or what kind of other reasons for any information system projects? Okay, so as we said, it's not totally that when you say develop information system, it means you came with totally new idea. All right, it's not, of course, it's not compulsory. Okay, so for example, I have, as we said, from using LMS for a year, you found some weaknesses. All right, so you came up, so instead of providing totally new information system, you came up with enhancements. All right, so it's not always providing actually your information system. Sometimes, of course, we need to do enhancement. So the enhancement, of course, it's part of developing an existing information system. So some of reasons include improved service. All right. So you think, for example, the current service that being provided by the online student service, it's not that it's not the best. There's kind of some services are missing from the information system. So of course, your idea is to came up with actually a new system enhancement the existing information system with more service providing. The second one, for example, we're gonna say the better performance. You are saying let's say you found when number of students actually going up, you find the performance of the LMS it's not that the best, right? So of course that means you need to upgrade some parts of the existing information system. Supply for new products and services, more information, providing more information, through existing information systems, stronger controls, maybe, reduce the cost. You feel, for example, the current cost of running this information system is quite costly. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna do kind of enhancement to the existing information system that will reduce the cost of running the information system. So these are, of course, main reasons for information system projects. Internal and external factors affect every business decision that a company makes. Of course, this is, of course, it's more about when you are working, in a company. There's some, factors that will affect the decision. For example, we have internal factors, we have external factors as well. So when we take external factors, it's more about, technology, suppliers, customers, competitors, the economy, the government, for example. These factors may affect, business decision. Let's say, for example, you came up with a new idea, totally new information system, and your foreign information system, but actually the existing technology, it's not enough. It's not enough to develop this information system. So this is one of the actually external factors that affect the business decision. Okay, can someone tell me example about that? Since we are IT people, so have you heard something about kind of technology may affect business decision? Affected business decision. Have you heard some stories, some examples about that? Do you think? The question is, yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. All right. So just to repeat the question, mostly, of course, when you're working on a company, there's kind of factors we're gonna say, internal factors or external factors, may affect, business decision. Look here, when we say external factors, could be technology, could be suppliers, could be customers, competitors, the economy, the government, right? So since we are an IT, so technology, the question is, if you have heard, for example, about some business decisions have been affected by technology. Um, so my example is that I believe maybe all of you have watched Avatar movie, right? Have you watched it? It's been just few years ago, and the director of the movie, I watched a kind of an interview for it. He said, the idea of the movie, he had the idea of movie just 10 years before releasing the movie, but the technology wasn't, available or wasn't enough to make the Avatar movie in the way that has released it. So that means, he had to wait 10 years to get the technology, improved to have this movie. So this is kind of just example, as you said, Tesla and, SpaceX, of course, absolutely. And yeah, of course, this is another great question. Yeah, example. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the same thing here. For example, when we say government or the economy, now, for example, we are in a situation of COVID-19. Of course, there's many business decision has been affected by the economy. The economy is going down. Of course, because COVID-19. So these are, of course, we call them as as external factors that may affect the business decision. About the internal factors, for example, could be in managers, could be user requests, user request, could be information technology department, could be existing system and data. So these are, of course, we call them as internal factors may affect the business decision. All right. Now we talk here about evaluation of system request. Right. Um, Look here. When you are working as in very big companies, let's say Apple or Microsoft or whatever, just these big names, right? They have something called system review committee. Okay, system review committee. So system review, of course, the task of this of system review committee actually. So when you put your request of any idea for for anything, of course. So the system review committee, of course, consists of just specialist people who will review your request based on your analysis, based on your comprehensive study that you did for the new idea. They will review everything, and of course, based on that, they will make their decision. So they evaluate your request and set priorities. So they will make a decision to proceed with your request or not, to proceed developing, for example, the project that you're asking for or not. Okay, so this is what we call the system review committee, especially when you have a big names of companies, as we said, Apple, Samsung, these big names. All right. So what about, for example, small companies? Small companies morely they have just kind of one person who is specialist in this field, who will review actually their system request and see if it's, for example, manageable, if it's, for example, really worth proceed with it or not. All right. So this is what we call a system review or system review committee. Preliminary, of course, investigation. System planning phase, system analysts will conduct preliminary investigation that, of course, involved what, for example, about a problem, opportunity, development time and cost, project the scope and if there is any constraints, for example, on your project, project benefits as well, of course, and everything, of course, will be submitted where to the report to the management. That will, of course, interact with managers and users. When we say preliminary investigation, of course, there's kind of six steps, that the analyst, of course, will go through from the beginning till the end. So, for example, it's something called, the first one is called understanding the problem and opportunity. Second one, define the project scope, all right, and constraint. Perform fact finding, in terms of analysis, organized charts, for example, contact interviews. So we will talk about this one later. I think week 3 or 4. For example, when you are conducting kind of interviews with whatever, with people to collect data. So these are part of collecting data from people. Analyze project usability, cost, benefit, and schedule data as well. All right. Evaluate the visibility and represent present results and recommendations to management. All right. So these are, of course, the sixth step. That should be proceed by any investigator here. All right. Now, step one, regarding step one, understanding the problem or the opportunity. So what does that mean? So when you put your system request, all right, me as a system analyst, for example, I will study the problem that you're asking for. I will see, is it really a problem? Is it really a problem? So a popular technique for investigating the causes and effect is called by what? By the fishbone diagram, all right, or Ishikawa diagram. Okay, so Ishikawa here is actually he's a person who came up with this idea of designing this diagram. Okay, now you may ask why it's fishbone diagram. Of course, because at the end, the figure of the diagram will looks like the fish backbone of the fish, so exactly the same thing. So it came from this name. So some people, of course, they call it as a fishbone diagram from the shape, of course, because it looks like the backbone of the fish. Or Ishikawa diagram. Ishikawa diagram is he's the person who came up with this idea. All right. Now, the idea says here, this idea, of course, you can use it in order to see, to fully understand the problem, the causes and the effect of the problem. All right. How does it work? All right. Now, of course, we need to identify the problem. Okay. So the first thing you need to identify the problem here. Let's say the problem he is investigating now, is about unhappy workers. So you need to put it in a box, all right, on your right hand. Okay. Just put in a box the problem itself, and then draw a horizontal line to the end. All right. Now, from here, of course, what you need to do, of course, you need to brainstorm the major categories of causes of the problem. All right. Now, these books, actually, the 4 books, represent the categories of the causes of the problem. So, why we are having unhappy workers? For example, because management, because workers, because machines, because environment. So these are actually 5 categories. May affect, of course, may have the causes of the problem itself. All right. This is the second step. The third step, of course, what we need to brainstorm actually all the possible causes. Okay. Now, which means, so what are actually, you need to list all the causes under management. For example, management needed training. All right. So what about machines? For example, machines are quite old. All right. So they are not actually, they didn't work properly. So they are quite old. All right. So these are actually the causes under what? Under machines. What about the environment? So what causes came under environment? So the environment, for example, is too hot, right? So these we call them are the causes and the causes of the problem itself. So if you look here, when you look at the figure at the end, we can see here the categories management, workers, machines, and environment actually. These are the causes, and of course, these are the list of the cause itself. They made this problem happen, which is what? unhappy workers. So because these problems, because these causes, what do we have? Unhappy workers. All right. So from this diagram, of course, you can, for example, identify, the problem, the real problem, and the causes itself, as well, not just the problem. So yeah, this is kind of a popular technique for investigating the cause and the effect. Of course, it's quite popular, and most people use it actually to have what we call a big picture, about the real problem and the causes of this problem. Again, it's called the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram. All right. Step two, it's more about define the project scope and constraint. All right. So of course, with for any project, of course, there's a scope, there's constraint. Clear the project scope to avoid project creep, for example. Identify constraints, present versus future, internal, external, monitoring and travel, of course. Regardless of the type, all constraints should be identified as early as possible to avoid future problems and surprises. Okay, so when you start designing any information system, of course you should know your scope of the scope of this information system. So um, any information system cannot does everything. So there's a scope, there's a constraint it's working within. That of course came from the aim of this scope. So for example, let's say the LMS that you are using, it's an information system. So it's more about what some more students can enroll themselves in large university. They can, for example, drop subject. They can add subject. They can attend it, of course, through LMS to download the documents to have a look on your subjects. This is mainly the LMS. It's not about, for example, transfer money. It's not. This is what we call out of the scope. It's not about transfer money. It's not about, for example, you can't use the LMS to make booking. You can't, because this is out of the scope. All right. So of course, for any information system, there's a scope and there's a domain and there's a constraints as well. Fact finding, of course, involve various techniques. May consume several hours day or work to analyze organization chart. It's more about the interface. This is actually how we will do it during the lab. So you will starting, for example, from this week, this week studying, taking the lab, for example, how you will do, how create a database using Microsoft Access, in terms of the tables, in terms of the data type that you are using, and then filling the tables with data, and then finally you're gonna work on the interface. So of course that will be part of your lab. At the same time, of course, determine the people interview, establish objectives of the for the interview. This is, of course, we will talk mainly, if I'm not mistaken, lab 3 or 4. Because there's kind of different labs, different types of interviews. Depends on the people that we are interviewing them. Of course, we need to write the questions, what type of questions are as well. We have something called open question. We have something called closed questions. What is the difference between them? Okay, and all of these steps, of course, we're gonna talk them by at the next lecture. Analyze project data, represent the data gathered from the fact finding in a way that is easy to analyze. Of course, when you because next lecture, for example, we're going to talk about what kind of techniques we will use to collect data and the interview, or it's or making questionnaire. Questionnaire is just two parts of collecting data from people, and then of course we're going to use these data to put them in a figure for analysis. So this is, of course, what it's part of analyzing project data, the data that you collect from people about your project, uh, visualizing problem in order as well. Evaluate visibility and setting priorities. Evaluate the project operational, technical, economic, and schedule visibility. to set the project priority, in comparison other project. So it's more here, here is more about evaluation of your project. And when we say about evaluation means, of course, you need to make, as we say, after the make a comprehensive study, the evaluation in terms of using, in terms, of, technical, operational, economic as well. And of course, you need to compare it, for example, with an existing information system. So, for example, now again to the same example of LMS. All right. So you have LMS, for example. You are gaming. You are providing a new idea of using an LMS, right? So you need to compare it with the existing one. All right. What is the difference? For example, in terms of speed, in terms of the service that you provide, in terms of cost, which one actually more costly? Is it your, for example, your idea or the existing ones? So it's more about evaluation in terms of everything. Evaluate visibility and setting priorities. The first step, of course, in evaluation visibility is to identify ways our system requests that are not visible, right? Even if the request is visible, it may not be necessary, because sometime when you came up with a new idea, you know, um, it's not really required to have it, even if there's a reason. For example, when we talk about the first one, if you remember this one, where is it? This one, I know. The first one, when we said, where is it? Should the system be developed? Do we really need it? Is it so important to have it? Because sometimes, for example, even if you came with a new idea, right? But let's say you came with a new idea, but actually we have other solutions available. So there is no need to, spend money and time for something already exists. All right, even you have a kind of a new idea. So this is what we mean actually here by by saying, where is it? All right, so where is it? Okay, so maybe not necessary. It's not always necessary to have a new idea. So some system, analysts believe that when a project visibility is not that, of course, the best solution to be do nothing, of course, for now. Visibility analysis is an ongoing task that must be performed throughout the system development process. That means from the first phase, of course, which is the system planning, till the end, of course, when you are doing, testing, installation, and maintenance as well. Okay. Whenever possible, analysis should be evaluate proceed project. Evaluate. Designation, non-signature project where management has choice, implementation them are called project. Nonsense. Okay. Okay, guys. So actually, this is just, I'm just trying to review everything here. This is just kind of brief details. For example, here when step five present results recommendation to management, it's more about, this is the final task to prepare a report about the management. For example, when reviewing everything your system requests, and then of course they kind to produce a report to the management if your request systems will be proceed or not. And that will be started by introduction, system request summary, finding recommendations, project roles, time costs, and appendix. So these are the parts that will be, of course, in the report to the management. Okay, so guys, it's all here, just kind of details about the system planning. Of course, if you go out in the real life, you may not face exactly the same thing, but these are kind of points you should be familiar with. All right. Now we will move to the most important part, of system planning. The most important part in the system planning, which would call that the cost, the benefits analysis. All right. So what does that mean, the cost benefit analysis? Why we need to have, such analysis based on the new project? Okay. So do you have an idea why we need to have cost benefits analysis? Just, what's come to your mind when you hear, for example, cost benefits analysis for any information system? Imagine yourself, you are system development, all right? And your manager, or sorry, your boss asks you to came up with cost benefit analysis. So why you need to have such thing? To avoid unnecessary spending? Not really. Okay, it's important to establish if addressing an issue viable, whether it will fix more issues than it solve. Kind of, kind of. All right. So let me tell you one thing. Okay. The main aim of having cost benefit analysis is to make one single decision. All right. Again, the main point of having cost benefit analysis is to make one single decision. That decision is what is to proceed with development the information system or not. The decision is to proceed with actually, start working on the information system or not. Based on what? As we said from the beginning, when you put your system request to your company, for example, of course, as we said, you need to have kind of comprehensive study. Part of that comprehensive study is the cost benefit analysis. So you are saying, all right, so this is the cost that we will put, or the budget that we will put on developing this product or this project, and this is the benefits. All right. Let's say, for example, I have an idea about developing a project, right? And my budget is about, let's say, 80,000 K. All right, this is the initial budget. All right, this is the initial cost. About 80,000 K. Now, now of course, keep in mind, for any information system, um, the cost will be too high, all right? But while the time is going on, year by year, the cost, will be going down, right? The cost will be going down because at the first step, of course, there's you need to have, for example, softwares, new equipment, buy something, so the cost will be so high. At the same time, the benefit will be zero. So there's no benefit. Exactly, there's no benefit. All right. Sometimes, of course, in the first year, let's say there's some benefit, just quite small, but it's not countable, right? But most of the cases, first, second year, there is no benefit. All right. Just you are running your project or your project. Now, based on your study, okay, you are going to say, all right, so you are going to say this is the cost and this is the benefit, all right? If if you found the cost it's more than the benefit, so why you are just proceeding with your project, right? If the cost of this project is higher than the benefits, even after years, let's say after 3, 4, 5 years, the cost is still higher than the benefits. So actually there is no reason to keep proceeding with the development. All right, this is the main point. Now, if you found, for example, um, after a few years, the benefits of your project, that means benefit means actually you are getting benefit from the project itself. You are getting the benefits, it's equal or higher than the cost. All right, that means, of course, it's your project, it's reasonable, you have reasonable, all right? So that means you have a reason to proceed with your project, right? So again, if the cost higher than the benefits, there is no reason actually, to just, spending money on a project. There is no benefit from it. But after a few years, if you found the benefits it's became equal or higher than the cost, now we can say, of course, that means everything's all right. There's no problem with that. So we will proceed with our project. This is what we, of course, this is what we will get. This is what we will get, from the cost benefit analysis, right? Let's move on. So when we say cost benefit analysis, of course, the cost classification, of course, can be classified into four types here, or four, classifications. So the first one we call as a tangible and intangible cost. What does that mean? Do you have an idea? Have you heard about it when we say this is tangible or intangible cost? Have you heard about such thing? No one. You didn't heard about it, right? Things you can't touch. Exactly. It's from the meaning. Yeah, yeah, from yeah. Other meaning. Yeah, something you can't touch. Physical and digital. Exactly. Just let me give you example. All right. Um, when we say intangible course, of course, it's something you can touch it, or something you can see it. All right. Because now we are talking about the course and the benefits and the money. So of course, something you can see it. All right. For example, when say tangible cost, for example, let's say at calls, and then for something happen, of course, that will cause an increase in the salary, right? An increase in the selling product. So that you can see, of course, that from the analysis. But when we say intangible cost, something you can't see it, all right? For example, you are working at calls, all right? And the customers, for a reason, like they are unhappy, all right? So they are not, going to, to shop from calls for any reason, all right? Because they are unhappy. So they are going, or they are just keep going to Wellies, for example, all right? So actually here, the benefits from coal just goes down, but it's not, tangible, with this is what we call it. So you can't see it. You can't see it, all right? You can't see. This is what we call by intangible costs. All right, this is the first one. The second one, when we say direct and indirect costs, what does that mean? Indirect cost, for sorry, with direct cost, of course, something direct, something you are, paying money or spending money on it. All right. So, for example, large university, they want to upgrade the labs. All right. The computers. So they spending money on computers. All right. This is what we call the direct, direct cost. They know exactly what they are spending on. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely correct. Okay. Direct costs. What about the indirect costs? Indirect costs for some, after a while, something you are not expecting to have it happen during running the information system. Well, this is what we call the indirect cost. For example, the bills, all right? So, for example, during the winter, the bills just became so high, all right? So the cost for the bills became so high. This is what we call, indirect, something unexpected to have it in your information system. Fixed and variables equate similar to the direct and indirect development and operating costs. Of course, this is related to what, when developing, or all the information system and operating itself. For example, you are looking for someone who is specialist in something. You need to run, special part of the information system. You need to hire someone, or you need to, for example, gain some employee in your information system, someone is specialist. So of course, this is what we call operating cost. The benefits classification is the exact the same thing when we, with the cost classification, in terms of the benefit can be classified into tangible or intangible or fixed or variable as well. All right. So when we say the cost benefit analysis, the process of comparing anticipated cost and anticipated benefits of a project. Okay. Now, there's a three ways or three methods to do that, right? So the first one we call the payback analysis. The second one we call return on investment analysis, or we can stand for ROI. Third one, present value analysis, all right? So we're gonna talk each one now. However, all right, the objective of is the same, is to provide reliable information for decision making. All right. So now here, for example, when you want to make a decision about your project, this is for this reason we said this is quite important. It's quite important because to make a decision in your information system, do we need to really proceed with this information system or not? So we need to do analysis based on payback analysis, or based on the return on an investment analysis, or based on, of course, a present value analysis. All right, guys. Any questions so far? All good? Can I hear something from you? Everything is all right? Okay, great. All right. Now, when we say payback analysis is the process of determining how long it takes a project to pay for itself. All right, and that means we need to have two variables with this method. The first one is the total accumulative cost, and the second one is the total cumulative benefits. All right, so we need to calculate the cumulative cost and the cumulative benefits, and based on those, of course, we will make our decision. Do we need to really proceed with this, or we need to proceed developing this project or not? All right. So the cumulative cost is the sum of the cost, each year since the project development. The cumulative benefit is the same thing, is the sum of the benefit each year since the project development. All right. Steps involved in payback analysis: determine the initial development cost of the system, determine annual operating costs, cumulative costs as well. All right, let's take a practical example. I'm sure you will fully understand this one. Let's take practically. All right. Okay. So before taking the example and explain the example, let's have a look at this figure. All right. Let's have at this figure. Now, as you can see here, we have a figure here. For example, this is represent the cost, and this y-axis represent the cost, and the x-axis of course represent the benefits. All right. So the purple line represents what? Represent the costs of any project or information system, while the blue line represent the benefits. All right. Now, please look here. Look at the cost. The cost started from where? From the top, right? Started from the top. The question is, why it started from the top? Why it didn't start from zero? Look here, from the top. What do you think?
Only the cycle cost, I don't need the benefits.
Sorry, say again. Hello? Okay, guys, I will repeat the question. Okay, I will repeat the question. Now, have a look at this figure. All right, have a look at this figure. So as we said, we have two lines. All right, so the purple one represent what? Represent the cost. All right, and the blue line here represent the benefits. All right. So the question is, why the purple line or the cost line start from the top? Why it's not from here?
Those are the initial costs.
Absolutely correct. Beautiful. This is the initial cost, because for any project, when you start developing any project, of course, the cost will be, very high. because for example, the initial cost is 80,000 K or 100,000 K. Of course, this is the initial cost. This is what you will spending on to run to make the information system is running. All right, this is the cost. So it's always starting from top. All right. Now, and again, this of course the cost will be of course goes down just year by year. All right. Now look at here the blue line, the benefits. So why it's again the same question. So why the blue line started here from this point, not from zero? Why?
The benefits only start to appear after you've developed the project, so it takes
Beautiful.
time to develop the system before the benefits start to happen.
It's not takes time to develop. No, no, you are almost right. Okay, you are almost there. It's not about takes time to develop. Okay, look here, guys. All right, at this point, okay, at this point, now the project or the information system is running without any problem. All right, it's running without any problem. That means we are done with the planning phase, we are done with the design, with the analysis, with the implementation, and then the last one, which is testing, installation, maintenance. We are done with all these phases. All right. So at this point, the project or the information system is running perfectly without any problem. But the cost here, as we said, is this is the initial budget or the initial cost for an information system. Always start from top. It's quite expensive, right? And then through the time, the cost will goes down. But the benefits of any information system, it's not always starting from the first day I am running the information system. Sometimes, of course, I'm starting getting the benefit from year one, for example, or after second year, I will start getting the benefits. For this reason, the blue line it's starting from, for example, just after a while. After a while, could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, right? But the main point that you need to understand is that the cost it's always at the top, starting from top, because it will be quite costly. But the benefits always starting actually from year one or year two or year three. It's not always starting from the first that you are running your operation system, or sorry, information system. Okay. Now, look here. When the cost is starting by decrease, of course, here, and the benefits here. Let's say this is this point is second year, for example, right? Now, from second year, the benefits start rising up, going up, going up, going up, while the cost, of course, going down. Now, at this point, look here. At this point, okay, this is what we call here actually the payback period. The payback period. So here at this point, actually, we can say when you starting getting benefits from your project. Okay, and of course we will have example about that. But just to give you a picture about that, the cost through the time will goes down, the benefits of course through the time will goes up. And then when we have the cost and the benefits for a period of time, they are equal, or the benefits slightly, of course, more than the cost, of course, we will call this period of time as a payback analysis. And this is exactly what we are looking for. This is exactly what we are looking for. If you found, for example, the cost of information system is always higher than the benefits. So the question is why we need to have such projects, right? Am I right? So if the cost is always higher than the benefits, why I need to keep developing something I will get nothing from it? It's useless. Exactly, it's useless. So for this reason, of course, we will make our decision based on that. All right. So any question about this figure, guys? All good? Okay, great. Now, now let's have question, a practical question about that. All right. Guys, by the way, this cost benefit analysis, it's quite important for your assignments, for your project, for your final exam as well. It's quite important. So please just pay attention for this one. If you have any question, any doubt, just let me know or even write it down. Okay. All right. Now, let's have a look at this example and see, how can we find the payback analysis based on what? Okay. Now, imagine you have these two projects. All right. So project A, there's years starting from year 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means you have 7 years, and this is the cost of each year. Okay. Look here at this one. Okay, now look here at this one. Look the cost of year one. Okay, the cost of the first year is 60,000 K. All right, 60,000 K. This is what we call, the initial cost of running this project. Okay, or information system. This is for year zero. All right. Now for the second year, look here. The cost is what? Just 17,000. Look, previous year was 16, now 17,000. For this reason, actually, we're always saying the cost, it just goes down by itself, but during the time, just after a while, the cost will be just going down. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay, year two or year three, the cost is slightly higher than the previous year. Now it's 18,000. Okay. Okay, let me have just the question just comes to my mind. So guys, now, um what do you think? What do you think? So why the cost is 117,000 here, and next year it's became 18,000? What could happen during this year?
They may have added some new features that need more maintenance.
Absolutely correct. Beautiful. It could be adding new features to the existing project, or for example, doing maintenance, or doing, updating or upgrading or something related, that the cost is just 1,000, for example. Beautiful. All right, so let's move on. And then year four, it's became 19,000. All right, and move on. Here we have a little bit, more huge money, about 21,000. All right, move on. 22,000 till 23, of course, thousands. Right, so this is the cost. All right, for 7 years. All right. Now look at the benefits here. Look at the benefits. The first year benefit is what here? Is 3,000, just 3,000, right? And then it became what? 28,000, 31,000, 34, 36 till 42. So the main point here, what we can see here, the cost is always actually goes down year by year, while the benefits, of course, it goes up year by year. Okay, so this is, of course, this is so important in order to make a decision for any project. Okay, all right. Um, and the same thing for project B, the same thing exactly for project B. So the initial cost for project B is what? Is 80,000. All right, 80,000. Second year 40,000, third year 25,000, 22,000, 24, till the cost became 30,000, right? And for the benefits, look here for the benefits. For year one, it's nothing, it's zero. Okay, so here, for example, with project B, of course, the benefit at the first year is nothing. There is no benefit at all. Comparing to the project A, there is just 3,000. All right, so again, it's not always to have a benefits at the first year. Sometimes, of course, even if you have some benefits, it will be quite small. It's quite small, 3,000. Look here, 3,000. Comparing to the cost of the initial year, 60,000. So you spend 60,000, and the benefits 3,000. No, it's nothing compared to the initial value. It's nothing. At the same time for project B. So the initial cost is what is 80,000, but at the first year, you got nothing here, zero. There's no any benefits of the first year. But look to the second year, it became 6,000. Look to the third year, 26,000. Look to the fourth year, 54,000. All right, and then to the year seven, it becomes 92,000. All right, so the benefits always it's going up. All right. So of course, this is of course about the costs and the benefits, and then of course, in order to find and to make our decision, of course, we need to calculate something called the cumulative cost and cumulative benefits. Okay. Any questions so far about this one? All good. Okay, great. Okay, beautiful. Now let's move to the second one. Okay. Now, this part here, we are talking here, so we are talking about how can we find the cumulative cost, right? It's quite simple. Look here, as we said, the cost of the first year is 60,000. So when we say cumulative cost, of course, the always the the initial cost of the first year is the same, exact the same thing when you are going, of course, talking about the cumulative cost in the first year, exactly the same thing, because we don't have any previous years the cost from previous years. We don't have any cost from previous years, so it's always the same value. If the initial cost was, for example, 50,000, so the initial cost for the initial cumulative cost will be 50,000. All right. If it was 100,000, it will be 100,000 as well. It's always the same value. Now, for the second one, what is the cumulative cost for the second year? How did we get this value from? Look here, it's always the second value came from what? Came from the initial value of the second year, okay, accumulated with the previous year. So 60,000, so it's 60,000 plus 17,000, all right? So the accumulative cost for the second year is 77,000. Okay, move on. Year three. Okay, so what is the accumulative cost for third year? Third year, it came from where? Came from the initial cost of the current year, 18,000. Okay, 18,000 plus the previous years, 17,000 plus 60,000. So the initial cumulative cost for year three is what? 95,000. Let's move on. The cumulative cost for year four is 114,000, 700,000, right? So where it came from? It came from the initial cost for year three, okay, accumulated with what? Accumulated with the initial cost of the previous years, which are 19, 200,000 plus 18, 500,000 plus 17,000 plus 60,000. All right. So the value here of the cumulative cost for year four is 114, 700,000. Right, and so on. It's always accumulating the current value, the current cost of the current year with the previous years. You will get the cumulative cost of the current value for the current year. It's always okay. And the same thing, exactly the same process, the same steps, of course, you will apply with the benefits. Again, the benefit here, the first year for the benefit 3,000. So when we calculate the cumulative benefits, it will take the first value. So 3,000 as well. Okay, let's move on. What is the cumulative benefit for the year two? Okay, it came from the cumulative between second year, the initial benefit of the second year plus the previous one, 3,000, right? So the cumulative benefits for the second year is 31,000. All right, let's move on. The cumulative benefits for third year, it's 62,000. Where it came from? It came from the current value, the current benefits of the current year, which is 31,000 plus 28,000 previous year plus 3,000 year one. So the cost, of course, the benefit is what? 62,000. And move on. Okay. Any question about that? About the calculations here, guys? Is that clear, guys? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So this is actually how we calculate the cumulative benefits, or sorry, the cumulative cost and the cumulative benefits based on the actual cost of each year and the actual benefits of each year as well. All right, and the same thing, exactly the same thing for project B. All right, so when we want to calculate the cumulative cost of the first year, okay, because there is no any previous years, so we will take the initial cost of the first year directly. The initial cost of the first year will be the cumulative cost of the first year as well. The cumulative cost for the second year, it came from the current year, the cost of the current year plus the first year as well. All right, so we're gonna have 120,000 and so on. But look at this case. Look at this case. The benefits of the first year, it's zero. There's no any benefits. All right. So the same thing will be applied on the cumulative benefits because we don't have any value here. So that means there's no accumulated benefits at the first year as well. It's absolutely the same thing. All right. But look here. Right, starting from zero one, 60,000 is the what is the benefit. So the accumulated benefit of the second year is 60,000 as well. Third year of course is 32,000. Where it came from? It came from, of course, 26,000 plus 6,000. Of course, we're gonna have 32,000 as accumulated benefits for year three, and so on. All right. So this is, of course, how we will calculate the cumulative benefits and cumulative costs as well. Based on what? Based on the initial cost and the initial benefits of each year. All right. So now we talked. So we talked about about the costs, and the benefits, and even calculating our finding the cumulative costs and the cumulative benefits for each year. Now it's time to make our decision based on the analysis we have done. Based on the analysis, of course, we need to know when we will get our payback analysis or payback benefits from project. So let's just go back to the previous slide, right? Look here, if you read this one, identify the time when the cumulative benefits equal to or exceed the cumulative costs. Okay, this is quite important. I will say that again. Identify the time when the cumulative benefits, this one, actually equal to or exceed the cumulative cost. Okay, yeah, let's go back to the example. Look here, the cumulative cost is 135,700. Okay, and the cumulative benefits is 132,000. All right, so we can say here the both values here at year four, actually they are they are slightly close to each other, or we can say they are relatively close to each other. Okay, in terms of the cost and the benefits, they are not exactly equal, but they are relatively close to each other. So we're gonna say, of course, project A, the payback period is basically 4 years. So after 4 years from here, I will start, I will getting benefits from my project A at 4 years. Now, why I didn't say, for example, at 4.3? Okay, look at 4.3. It's 114,000, and the cumulative cost, while the cumulative benefits is what? 96,000. Relatively just far away. They are not close to each other, or they are not equal. Okay. Look here for project B. It's always saying it's like break even. What do you mean? It's make break. It's just we are, we so look here when we do such analysis. Look here when we say at four years, so that means we are starting getting real benefits from our project after 4 years. Okay, so that means of course we can proceed, for example, with our project. Look here for project B, the same thing actually. When about 5 years, after 5 years, so when the cumulative cost is 217,000, while the cumulative benefit is 238, this is actually the closest thing to each other. Look to the year six, 247, 330,000. They are far away from each other. So the closest values, of course, will be on year five. So from this point, we're gonna say, of course, after 4 years or 5 years, we are expecting, of course, to get real benefits from our project. All right. So the shorter the payback period is, of course, is the better for project. Okay, it's my pleasure. So the shorter the payback period, of course, it's better the project. Okay. Now, the problem. Okay, so okay, guys, any question about this one? Just before moving to the next one. All good? Any question? Any doubt? Something not clear? Because this is quite important. You need to fully understand this one. This is quite important to your assignments, to your final exam. All good. Okay, great. Okay, great. All right. All right, so this is all. This is about about payback analysis. Now let's move on. Just before moving on, the problem of the payback analysis, it places all the emphasis on early costs and benefits, and ignores the benefits received after the payback period. Now, because this problem, of course, we gonna talk something about the return of investment, right? Or we can use you stand for ROI. Okay, so of course with this one there's a formula we can use. So the cumulative benefits, or the total accumulated benefits, minus cumulative cost, or the total cumulative cost, divided by total cumulative cost. All right. So the higher ROI, okay. So the higher ROI, the better the investment is. Let's take a practical example. The same question, the same projects, project A and project B, and even the same analysis that we did based on cost and benefits. Look here, in order to calculate the ROI, of course, as we said, we need to find the total, benefits, the total cost, and divide it by the total cost. So the question is, based on project A, so we need to what the total benefits here. Okay, total benefits here. It's of course it's equal to 213,000. All right, minus the total for the course is 181,000, divided by, of course, 181,000, which is of course the total cost. Now look here to the ROI. It's 17.7%. All right. Now for project B is what? 33.3. Okay. Now just go back to this one. The higher ROI, based on this condition, the higher ROI, the better the investment is. Now the question is, based on ROI for project A and project B, which one is better? Of course B. Absolutely correct. Okay, of course B. There is no doubt why it's B, because of course based on the value of our ROI, it's higher than, of course, the project A. So we're gonna say, of course, it's better to go and do investment with project B, instead of project A. All right. Now the problem of ROI is actually it ignores the timing of costs and the benefits. All right. So for this reason, of course, we're gonna move to something called, of course, like size. We're gonna talk about something called net present value. All right. Okay, net present value. Okay. Uh, let's have example about this one. Let me ask you a question. Okay, the question is, if I gave you $1, for example, 10 years ago, all right? Again, if I gave you a $1 10 years ago, um, is it worth the same value as today? Is it worth the same value as today? Of course no, right? Absolute, of course not. Absolute beautiful, of course not. All right, so let's take on, let's put it let's put the question on that way. If I gave you today $1, all right, today is 27th of July 2020. If I gave you $1 today, it will still worth, the same value 10 years later.
No guarantee.
Sorry, say again. No guarantee, right? Absolutely. It's not the same. So the point is it's not going to be the same. So this is actually the main point of having net present value. All right. So this is the whole idea of having something called the net present value. Look here. Why? Because it's when we talk about the return of investment or ROI, it ignores the timing of cost and the benefits, time value of money, all right? It's ignore it. So we're gonna talk here about something called the net present value. What is the present value of today of what you're talking about, all right? So based on the fact that a dollar at present time is worth more than a dollar you don't receive until certain time in the future. Okay, time value of money. Present value of a future dollar is the amount of money that when invested today, growth to exactly $1 at a certain point in the future and so on. Okay, so for example, it represents number of years and then represent, for example, based on discount or interest rates. Okay, so of course, then we will calculate the net present value based on these factors. Let's take a practical example about that. Okay, now, PV stands for present value, all right? So present value of $1, okay? So we can find from where? We can find from previous year, present value previous year, divided by 1 plus discount rates, or in the same way, the factor previous year, 1 plus the discount rate, or discount rate, or sometimes we call it as interest rates, okay? All right, so question here, example, assume a discount rate is 8% here. All right, now these are represent the years from 1 to 10, and here, of course, this is represent 6% the discount or the interest rate. Here represent 8% discount or the interest rate as well, and so on, the same thing. Now, if the question here, for example, I need to find the present value here for year 3, the present value. How can we find it? Okay, now I will find it by what? The present value of the previous year, which is what? 0.857 divided by 1 plus, all right, plus what? 8%, which is represent the interest rate or the discount. Okay, I will get 0.794. This is the net present value. Okay, and the same thing here, for example, if I want to calculate the present value for year 4. Okay, so the previous year, the present value of the previous year, which is 0.675 divided by 1 plus 14 percentage, which is what? The interest rate or the discount rate. I will get the net 592, which represent the net present value. Okay. Now, so you may ask yourself, or you may have just you are thinking about yourself. Okay, so now you might have a question in your mind. For example, how can we get such questions in the assignment or even in the final exam? Okay, it's quite simple. You're gonna have the same table. You're gonna have the same table, and I will ask you to provide the net present value, for example, for based on the question, of course, and I will provide you the discount rate or the interest rate, and I will give you the first year only. Okay, I will give you the first year only, yeah, and then from the first year you need to find the net present value for the whole thing, for the rest of the years. I will say, for example, you need to find the net present value for the next 10 years. All right, for the next 10 years I will give you the discount rate, 6%, for example, and of course the net present value for the first year only. And then of course you will find the net present value for the second year based on year one, and then you will find the present value for year three based on year two, and so on. Okay, this is how can we calculate the net present value. And present value, of course, analysis, and based on that, of course, we have something called the present value cost, which is represent the cost times the factor. Present value benefits equal to benefits times the factor, of course. Then we can calculate the net present value of a project, represent the present value cumulative benefits minus present value cumulative cost. In theory, any project with a positive net present value is economically, of course, visible. Now, in your exam, of course, you're gonna have a question. Of course, do you think, of course, we need to proceed with this project? Of course, it depends on if it was positive or negative. It was negative, that means there is no chance to proceed with it. If it was a positive, we can proceed with it. All right. Now, present value. This is another example. This is just exercise. All right, class exercise. Just class exercise. Okay, next lecture. Okay, guys, here's our deal. All right, so basically, of course, we are done with with the material of this week. But of course, we having kind of two things, class exercise. All right, so what we're gonna do here, of course, we will not talk about the class exercise today, but we will talk about them, of course, at the first 15 minutes by next lecture. So your task is what? Of course, you need to review this lecture by this week till next lecture, and of course, try to figure out or solve all these class exercise. So by next week, next lecture, the first 15 minutes or first 30 minutes, of course, we're gonna try to discuss all the answers for these class exercise together. Okay, but please try to find a solution by yourself, because that will help you to fully understand this topic, because this, as I said, is quite important for your assignments for your final exam as well, because I will release the assignment one by uh, end of week three. Okay, so just about 2 week or 2 weeks ahead. So I need you to fully understand this one. I don't want actually you to face any problems during the assignments. All right, guys. So any questions so far about this one? About anything from the beginning till the end? Do you have any question? Do you think there's something confusing, something you need to again to we can review it again? Please write it down, or just we can talk together. Hello, do you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, all good.
okay, do you have any questions, any doubts, something not
No.
something not clear, something confusing?
So far, no.
Okay, great. Okay, happy to hear that. But please, again, guys, I will say that again, because you have kind of you have about 3 to 4 class exercise, and I prefer to talk about it by next lecture, the first 50 minutes in the next lecture, I need you to go back, have a look at the lecture notes, review all the details, and try to solve the questions by yourself. And then by the next lecture, of course, the first 15 minutes, we're gonna try to solve all the questions together. It's really good. It's really good to review everything by yourself. That will, raise any question you have in your mind. So we will be able to fully understand. I need you to fully understand this topic by the next lecture. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For the last thing, guys, please, and don't forget for the Bendigo students, you have a lab today at 12 to 2 by Dr. Mortada. So please try to attend this lab. It's quite important. This is your first lab. And at the same time, you have a support session by Loki. So it's from 2 to 4. All the links available on the homepage of the subjects. Okay. Okay, guys.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna sleep now.
All right. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for attending this lecture, and see you next time. Okay. Good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, everybody.